Some betrayals do not arrive with thunder. They arrive quietly, disguised as love, wrapped in the smile of the person you once trusted to protect your future. For 25 years, I built a life beside a man I believed would stand with me until the end. Through sickness, through struggle, through poverty, through everything. I held his hand when we were young and broke, pushed him forward when he was weak, and sacrificed my dreams so he could build his. I gave him time, devotion, children, a home, and a name he could be proud of. And at 52, he threw it all away for a girl young enough to call me Mom. When I first saw her messages on his phone, I didn't scream, I didn't break, and I did not beg. People like him expect tears. They expect a woman to crumble, to plead, to ask, why wasn't I enough? But I wasn't raised about a betrayal. I was raised to fight, to endure, to rise from ashes like steel forged in fire. He thought age would make me powerless. He thought insecurity would make me silent. He thought he could trade decades of loyalty for a few months of lust and escape without consequences. He was wrong. Because revenge, real revenge, is never loud. It grows in silence, it sharpens in patience, it waits for the perfect moment. And while he wasted time chasing youth, I spent time building my arsenal. Every document he ignored, every account he forgot, every signature he left in my hands, became a weapon sharper than any blade. He didn't realize the woman he was betraying was the same woman who held the keys to everything he loved: his business, his assets, his legacy, his comfort. He didn't realize I didn't need to scream, I only needed to smile and let him bury himself. This is not a story of heartbreak. This is a story of awakening, of vengeance, of reclaiming power. And if you have ever been betrayed, used, underestimated, or discarded, listen closely. Because what happened next changed everything. After 52 years of living, surviving, forgiving, building, and sacrificing, she never imagined betrayal would arrive like a knife hidden in a kiss. It happened on a Tuesday, while she was preparing dinner, her hands busy and her mind calm, when his phone, carelessly abandoned on the counter, lit up. A name she didn't recognize, a message with a heart emoji. At first it felt harmless, like a conversation with a colleague or a thank you from a client. But then came the photo. Her husband smiling beside a girl, so young she could have been their niece, her lips pressed against his cheek, in a pose so intimate it felt like a slap. Her heart didn't break in a dramatic explosion, it cracked slowly, like porcelain spider-webbed under pressure. Every shared memory, every scar, every promise turned into ashes in seconds. She wanted to scream, but instead she went silent. She read more. Hundreds of messages filled with arrogant bragging, immature fantasies, excuses he sent to justify abandoning his wife. He called her boring, cold, lifeless, as if the woman who once nursed him through sickness, raised his children, kept his household running, and supported his dreams was a discarded relic. It stung, not because his insults were true, but because for the first time she saw who he had truly become: a coward decorated in shallow flattery, a boy trapped in an aging man's body, chasing validation from someone who mistook youth for superiority. The photos revealed more. Trips he claimed were business. Dinners he said were late meetings. Weekends away he excused as stress relief. Every lie was stacked on top of the one before it, building a tower of betrayal high enough to eclipse the decades they spent together. She leaned against the wall, breathing slowly, forcing herself not to crumble. Someone else might have collapsed on the floor, sobbing or shaking. She did not. He had stolen the one thing he believed she no longer possessed: dignity. But dignity, unlike beauty or youth, was something she had carved into her bones. She thought about the years of sacrifice, the dreams she postponed to raise children, the nights she stayed awake managing bills, the mornings she cooked his breakfast before work, the patience she showed while he chased promotions and built careers. She remembered celebrating his victories even when her own ambitions were forgotten, replaced by the roles society forced onto countless wives: support, nurture, endure. Now, she stared at the screen and realized she had mistaken loyalty for partnership. He had mistaken comfort for possession. He believed she would always stay because she always had. The pain grew heavier when she looked into the mirror. The lines around her eyes, the gray in her hair, the softness of a face weathered by decades of responsibility. He saw these as flaws. She saw them as medals. Every wrinkle marked a year of experience. Every shadow under her eyes a night, she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. But he dismissed all of it in exchange for the illusion of youth. A girl who hadn't lived enough days to measure the depth of a single heartbreak. She sat down and reread the messages until calm returned like steel coating her spine. She replayed memories not as nostalgia but as evidence. She noticed every financial detail he bragged about to impress the girl. His companies, his accounts, investments she had helped nurture, documents she had access to because he trusted her with responsibilities he never taught the younger woman to handle. She understood then betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was strategic, and strategy would be her response. Not revenge born from chaos but from clarity. Not a public breakdown but a silent awakening. She wiped her tears, closed his phone and didn't burn, break, or beg. Betrayal, when seen through steady eyes, didn't crush her. It unlocked something ruthless and unbreakable. And from that moment, she vowed if he thought she was weak, he would learn the power of a woman who has nothing left to lose. When a man reaches the age where the mirror reflects more memories than dreams, he often tries to feel young again by grasping at illusions. Her husband was no different. The woman he betrayed his wife with was not love, not passion, not destiny. She was an escape, a glittering mirage feeding his ego. At 52, the lines of age traced across his face like carved reminders of time, and instead of wearing them with dignity, he chased after youth like a starving animal. The young woman was half his age, barely 30, and she nurtured his fantasy the same way a con artist nurtures a wallet, slowly, softly, strategically. She didn't care about his dreams. She cared about the door his name opened, the money his account could provide, the power she could feed off until he was empty. He mistook her fake admiration for adoration, her feigned innocence for purity, and her manipulation for love. And while he was drowning in that illusion, he forgot the woman who had built every solid piece of his reality. For decades, she had been the backbone of his life, supporting him when his business failed, defending him when the world laughed at his ambitions, staying awake when bills were unpaid and meals were late. She was there when he had nothing, and when every step he took depended on the strength of her back. She sacrificed her youth for his dreams, her body for his children, her comfort for his stability. She stitched the fabric of their life, while he thought success was stitched by his hands alone. And the moment he tasted the sweetness of validation from someone younger, he discarded her like outdated furniture. He didn't see a wife who endured storms beside him. He saw a woman who aged, a reminder of time, a reflection of responsibility. And in that blindness, he believed he was invincible. The young girl whispered promises, kissed his insecurities, stroked his fading confidence, and he fell like a fool straight into her trap. He would sit in front of the mirror for hours, dyeing the gray in his beard, buying new suits, lifting weights he could barely handle, thinking he was reborn. He never once realized that she was laughing behind his back, laughing at his desperate attempts to claw back lost youth, laughing at how easily he abandoned the woman who once held him through every failure. Her husband was proud of himself, convinced the young woman adored him. He would talk about how she brought back his fire, how she understood him more than his wife ever did. The truth was brutal. His wife understood him too well, and that was why she saw through his lies. The young woman understood only the ATM card, the expensive dinners, the rented house he put her in, the jewelry she flaunted online. She stroked his ego until he was addicted. He mistook addiction for love. Every lie he told his wife became a shovel digging his own grave, piece by piece, until all that remained was a mound of arrogance. And a woman who once loved him, now silently sharpening her revenge. After betrayal, some people scream, some destroy, Some collapse. She did none of those things. She became silent, dangerously silent. Silence is the language of strategy, and she spoke it fluently. While her husband celebrated his new love, she studied him with precision sharper than any blade. She knew the collapse of empires never happens through chaos, it happens through timing. So she gathered proof. She documented every text he sent, every hotel receipt he hid, every bank transfer he tried to erase. She did not confront him. She did not warn him. She let him think he was in control. Wolves do not howl before they kill. They wait, motionless until the prey is exposed. She opened financial statements he thought she would never understand. She found the accounts with his mistress's rent, the payments for flights, the expensive gifts, all wrapped in deception. She downloaded conversations from his phone while he slept beside her, deluded and comfortable. She met with her lawyer quietly, during lunch breaks, smiling through meetings as if nothing was wrong. She wore the mask of the dutiful wife, the calm woman, the resigned partner, because that mask made her invisible to his arrogance. He didn't suspect her intelligence. He didn't think she was capable of war, and that was his fatal mistake. She researched property laws, marital rights, spousal support, asset division. She learned how courts punish long-term financial betrayal. She built her plan like a surgeon, measured, calculated, bloodless. Every signature she collected was a trap disguised as routine. Every subtle question she asked him was designed to record a lie. Every friend she pretended to confide in became a witness. She even visited the young woman's social media profiles, capturing posts, tracking timelines, screenshots that transformed flirtatious comments into legal bullets. She became the architect of his downfall, brick by quiet brick. When the moment finally came, she didn't shout, she didn't cry. She placed the evidence in front of him like a final meal. Bank statements, photos, phone records, documents, legal letters. And then she said the words that crushed him. I know everything. He expected rage. He expected begging. He expected tears. What he saw was colder. A woman who no longer cared. She wasn't asking for explanations. She was announcing the end. With one stroke of her pen, she took his business shares, his savings, the house, the empire she helped him build. Every asset bled into her hands through legal channels he never imagined she understood. The young mistress vanished when the money disappeared. His friends turned their backs when his success crumbled. The man who thought he could trade loyalty for lust ended up alone, stripped of everything he once owned. Not by drama, not by violence, but by the quiet power of a woman who refused to break. He always believed he was untouchable. A man who built a career, gathered wealth, and wore his success like armor. To the outside world, he was the model husband, stable, charming, accomplished. People admired how he stood beside his wife of decades, the woman who supported him when he was nothing but ambition wrapped in insecurity. She gave him her mornings, her nights, her youth, her body, her patience. She worked 2 jobs while he studied. She paid rent while he borrowed dreams. She cooked dinner while he chased clients. She became the quiet engine that drove his empire forward. And in return, he looked at her one day and said, I deserve more. He didn't say it with his lips. He said it with his actions. The betrayal came like a knife disguised as a kiss. One evening she unlocked his phone, because he left it on the kitchen counter, his carelessness dripping arrogance. She wasn't suspicious. She was searching for a photo she took of their anniversary gift. But instead, she found something else. Messages stained with emojis, late-night calls, hotel receipts, and words a man should never give to another woman while still sleeping beside his wife. You make me feel alive again, he typed. She doesn't understand me anymore. And the worst one, she's old. You're fresh. There it was, the death sentence for a marriage she carried for half her life. Not because he fell in love, but because he traded loyalty for vanity. He found a girl half his age, one who giggled at his wrinkles and called them wisdom lines. He bought her gifts the wife never asked for. He paid her rent without hesitation. He showered her with luxury as if love could be measured by receipts. The woman he betrayed didn't scream. She didn't break plates or beg for answers. No one witnessed chaos. Instead, a silence settled over her like armor cooling in the forge. She stared at those messages until the words etched themselves into her spine. Decades of struggle flashed before her eyes, the nights she cleaned up after his failures, the tears she swallowed when he said he was too tired, the pride she carried for their shared victories. He threw all of it into the trash at the feet of a child who believed forever meant a new handbag. She realized something then. He wasn't cheating because she was lacking. He was cheating because he was weak. A man who feared aging, feared losing relevance, feared looking in the mirror and seeing time staring back. He thought a younger woman would fill the void she never created. He thought the thrill of being desired would erase the guilt of being ungrateful. Her heart burned. Yes, but beneath that flame was steel. Betrayal didn't break her, it sharpened her. She understood one brutal truth. Begging a man who chose cheap attention would kill the part of her that remembered her worth. He belonged to the world of ego and desperation now. She belonged to the world she built, with logic, discipline, and calm intelligence. And so, instead of collapsing, she began to prepare. Every message became evidence. Every bill became ammunition. Every lie became leverage. She would not confront him with tears. She would destroy his fantasy with facts. And when she walked away, she would not leave empty-handed. She would walk away holding everything he ever loved. And he would understand what loss truly felt like. The day of reckoning was never loud in her mind. It was precise. She chose the moment when his world felt invincible, when the mistress was wrapped in delusion, when his friends still respected him, and when his coworkers still believed in his myth. The anniversary dinner he planned with vanity and arrogance became her arena. He had gathered everyone to celebrate his fresh start and show off the woman who made him feel young again, as if youth could resurrect dignity. The room was full of laughter, expensive champagne, and the illusion of control. She remained silent until his ego inflated enough to choke him, until his mistress smirked with the audacity of a thief who believed she'd replaced a queen. Then she stood, her posture calm, voice steady, eyes unshaken. She didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't play the wounded wife. She simply revealed the truth: the photos, the messages, the recorded hotel receipts, the bank transfers, the hidden plans to move funds behind her back, the legal documents bearing his signature that handed everything to her. The room fell silent, not in sympathy for him, but in respect for her strength. The mistress went pale, suddenly seeing the cheap fantasy crumble into dust, realizing she was nothing but a temporary distraction in a collapsing empire. The friends beside him turned their faces, shame coloring their skin like bruises. Even his colleagues, the ones who admired his confidence, looked at him with disgust. She didn't curse him, she didn't need to. She exposed him with facts, with consequences, with undeniable evidence of a fool who traded loyalty for vanity. And when he opened his mouth to beg, she spoke the line that split his pride in half. "You didn't lose me, you simply underestimated me." The room erupted, not in applause, but in the quiet power of those who witnessed justice unfold before their eyes. The humiliation was complete because it wasn't emotional. It was legal, strategic, irreversible. His face sagged, his shoulders crumbled, and the mistress slipped into the shadows like a stain washed off marble. In that moment, she learned a truth every betrayed woman eventually understands. You don't have to destroy a man who betrayed you. You simply expose him, and he destroys himself. Revenge was never the goal. It was the natural consequence of his disrespect. She did not stay to savor his breakdown, nor linger to watch him sink into loneliness. After signing the final divorce papers, after securing the house, the accounts, the retirement funds, and the business rights she had built with her own sweat, she packed her last suitcase. Not with tears, not with regrets, only with the confidence that comes from knowing she didn't just survive, she conquered. He sat there in the living room, surrounded by the ruins of his fantasy, the silence of a woman half his age who abandoned him the moment the money disappeared. His hair looked older, his eyes dull, his hands shaking not from age but from realization. He muttered apologies, pleaded with weak promises, used excuses of stress, midlife crisis, fear of mortality, anything to undo what he had done. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't insult him. She simply looked at him as a stranger. Because that's what he became the moment he decided a fleeting thrill was worth betraying decades of loyalty. She left the keys on the table, not because he had the right to return, but because the keys were hers, and she no longer needed to lock herself inside that marriage. Walking out the front door, she inhaled the air like a woman reborn. The sun didn't feel distant anymore. It felt like hers. She took everything he loved not out of cruelty, but out of justice. Every asset bore her fingerprints. Every success carried her sacrifices. She didn't destroy his life. She reclaimed hers. And when she reached her car, she smiled, not because she was vindictive, but because she had finally remembered her value. Her walk away was slow, respectful, powerful, the walk of a woman who learned that love should never demand the burial of self-respect. And as the door closed behind her forever, she understood the greatest revenge. Not revenge at all, but freedom. When she finally walked away, the world did not collapse. It bowed. Silence used to be her prison, but now it was her weapon. The house, the business shares, the legal rights, the accounts, every part of the empire he built on her devotion, now belonged to her. And the man who thought he could insult her age, her love, and her loyalty was left standing in the ruins he created, staring at the woman he once believed would never dare to fight back. The mistress, once smug and radiant with the confidence of youth, shrank under the weight of reality. She had no money, no future, no real power, only the fading fantasy of a cheating husband who could no longer protect her. She ran from the battlefield first, realizing she was never more than his distraction, not a lover, not a partner, just the spark he used to ignite the explosion that would destroy his own life. And as she disappeared, so did his pride. He screamed, cursed, blamed her, begged her, cycling through every stage of a broken ego. But she didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She didn't even look at him like an enemy. She looked at him like an irrelevant stranger. Because the moment a loyal woman stops defending a man, his kingdom crumbles faster than he can breathe. He tried to use age to degrade her, yet now she stood ageless, powerful, untouchable. She was 52, but she held the fire of a woman who endured storms and refused to kneel. She didn't destroy him out of spite. She destroyed him because he underestimated her. He believed loyalty was weakness. He thought commitment was submission. He assumed time would dull her mind, her beauty, her sharpness. Instead, time had crafted her into a strategist, a mastermind, a queen who did not beg for mercy. She engineered justice. She walked away from his mansion without trembling, without looking back. The wind was calm, the sky was warm, and her heartbeat was steady. The universe itself seemed to open its doors for her. Freedom tasted like sunlight on new skin. Revenge wasn't about breaking someone else. It was about reclaiming yourself so completely that the world can no longer recognize the version of you that suffered. Weeks later, she opened a new chapter, her own home, her own investments, her own future. She laughed again. She rediscovered the woman she once sacrificed for the sake of marriage, the woman who trusted too deeply, the woman who endured silently. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, sharper, wiser, a reborn warrior who knew her worth. To every woman who has been deceived, discarded, or disrespected, you are not weak for loving deeply. But you become unstoppable when you stop loving the wrong person. Never let someone treat your loyalty like a leash. Never apologize for growing strong in the aftermath of betrayal. And if someone dares to take advantage of your heart, let them choke on the consequences. If this story stirred your heart, leave a like, share it, and let the world know powerful women rise again. Subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable revenge stories, where every betrayal becomes a lesson, and every heartbreak becomes a victory.